Hi everyone, we're here at the backstage interviews for the Metals Investor Forum. I'm here with Shawn Khunkhun of Dolly Varden Silver. Shawn, thanks for being with us.
Grateful to be here, thanks.
All right, so why don't we jump right into it? Shawn, you've got some exciting projects at Dolly Varden, and I guess there's been a lot going on, but my first question for you would be, you've got a really big drill program planned for this year. Maybe tell us a little bit about what your goals are for that program.
Sure. I want to look back at last year for a moment. And the reason I want to do that is we still have 50 drill holes that we're going to be reporting from the 2022 season. And before we solidify the definitive plan for 2023, we're going to get in that assay data. And to recap on last year, it was a year where we stepped out of Wolf. So our project is made up of 7 deposits. The Wolf deposit is one of those 7, and we doubled the footprint of Wolf. So we're seeing a lot of expansion at Wolf, and the results have been twice the resource grade. So as we go incrementally deeper, the results have been good. They've been wide, like 20 meters of 584 grams of silver. Really nice, consistent results. We're also starting to see a little gold creep in as we go to the west of the side of the property. The other part of the program last year was we bought Homestake, which really changed Dolly Varden. It transformed us. The results we had at Homestake have increased my confidence in continuity and grade. So we had Wolf success, we had Homestake success, we had Torbrit success. So Torbrit's the big 53 million ounce silver deposit on the property. We're stepping out. We hit 50 meters of 400 grams there. So, and just to highlight the Homestake results, 27 grams of gold, 468 grams of silver over 9 meters. So I've got more results coming from Homestake, more results coming from Wolf, more results coming from Torbrit. If I had to guess where we're going next year right now before assays, it's not broken. Why fix it? Continue to drill around resources, continue to expand and step out. But I think I'll take a little bit more risk this year. We've got big parts of the property that haven't seen drilling. We've worked up the targets in 2022. So I think in addition to a high degree of confidence and expansion, the one factor that will be there that wasn't there so much is we're going to go and really take some big shots. And so with 28 million in the bank, I think we're well positioned. And again, I'm so excited about the 50 holes we're about to report.
Fantastic. So that certainly is going to be exciting to watch, to see those kinds of assays, come out. The next thing I kind of want to ask about is you've got that concentrated or concentration of resource over at Homestake, and then you've got what you had prior. There's about a 5 kilometer space between that. How do you plan to, I guess, address that virgin territory? Because naturally, it would be nice to see that there's continuity right across that. It is a good stretch, 5 kilometers. What do you have in mind? How do you plan to address that?
So we ran some geophysics. We worked with a company that's had a lot of success in our neighborhood with other companies like Tudor and Ascot. So we did some geophysics. We did some IP, and it's produced some targets. We also had a team go out and do some mapping. And so we have built up some targets. So we'll drill test that 5.5 kilometer gap. Where I think the story is really going to gain momentum this year is there's a 1.5 kilometer gap between Torbrit and Wolf. And I've got a drill hole that's heading off to the east. Like, we've had so much success going west on Wolf, but I've got one off to the east that we'll be reporting soon. And I just think that the challenge I have for my technical team is, where do these two systems come together? And what's interesting about all this is part of the Torbrit is referred to as the Kitsault vein, and it's the highest grade part of the project. And we're starting to see some similarities with Kitsault and the new discoveries we're making at Wolf. So there seems to be a relationship there. Is it part of the same horizon package? Is this one system so that's what I want to uncover. And I think where this company really goes to the next level is if we're able to bring Torbrit and Wolf together. And of course, if we can make a brand new, as you called it, like a virgin discovery in that 5 kilometer gap, that would exceed my expectations.
Interesting. You know, right now, about half of your shares are held by institutional investors, and that's not necessarily typical, but it's intriguing. And I'm wondering how you see that. In what ways could that be an advantage, and why for other shareholders or for retail shareholders?
It's a good question. Of the 50% that institutionally owned, 7.5 of the company is held by one really big institution that's recently come into the company. They came in September. Where I'm focused my efforts is introducing the company to really big institutions. There's only one that owns us. The rest of the institutions are relatively small, but now that the company's grown and the liquidity's increased, we are qualified for some of the larger institutions. And I'll give you one example. And this is something that I wished I would have said at the podium. Our shares went up dramatically, as did other companies with a rebalancing that occurred in the SILJ.
Right.
There's another rebalancing coming at the end of March. And as you know, Yamana's being acquired by Pan American Agnico, and so Yamana's coming out. Where's the SILJ going to put that allocation? Pan American is way too big to be in the SILJ.
Sure.
Do they come out? So that's one ETF, but we'll focus on institutions. And then outside of half the stock being in institutions, you've got Eric Sprott at 10, you've got Hecla at 10, you've got Fury at 23. It doesn't leave a lot to the public. And that's why I think, once Dolly gets going, and if we're putting out good results and we're growing the company, and, growing our inventory, I think we could have a lot of traction.
Fantastic. So just for viewers to understand, so if you've got a portion, only sort of a smaller portion of your float that really sort of trades more frequently, then there are fewer shares that really, if somebody would want to buy into it, that they have access to, because the rest of them, a lot of the institutional holders will basically buy them, sit on them, and not provide necessarily that much liquidity.
That's right.
So
creates that scarcity.
Yeah, exactly. You got it exactly. So the exploration budget for 2023, we talked about how you've got a big drill program. If we could just for a second revert back again to that idea of that 5 kilometer trend. I don't want to harp on it too much, but it's interesting because it's there, and you have to wonder, it's not that far off, and there's a really nice deposits of high grade on both ends of it. Just sort of roughly, how much, let's say, do you think either in meters or in dollars, percentage-wise, would potentially go to that area?
That's a good question. So we're looking at a 50-50 split.
Okay.
So we're looking at 50% going after pure exploration and 50% around known resources. So
Fantastic.
What we forecasted right now is an initial 40,000 meter drill program, which is about a $16 million spend. We're actually going to put $21 million in the ground this year, but we just haven't allocated the back, because a lot of this will be depending on where we're having success and where we want to do follow-up. But so today, initially, as we get going, to break it down, it'd be about 20,000 meters of exploration, about an $8 million spend on going after that. And again, we have the geophysical targets. We've done radiometrics, we've done IP, we've done soils, geochemistry, we've done some mapping, and I think that triangulating all that exploration data and learning what we have from our existing 7 deposits puts us in a position where if there is a deposit there, it should be the year where we get into it and vector into it.
That's interesting. And it's interesting, I think, for viewers to really recognize too, that, given the kind of technologies for exploration that we have today, it's always risky, but it's much less of a shot in the dark than it was probably 20 or 30 years ago, right? And like you say, you can vector with these different approaches,
and
right?
again, like often these projects, I've had geologists say to me, where can you fit a deposit on this property? And it's there. And if you think about periodicity, like these deposits, there's 7 of them so far, like they're all being fed from a source. And so not only is it about that gap, but just south of Homestake, like I go back to Eskay Creek, there was a feeder that bled out that 200 million ounce silver deposit. It was a big gold feeder. And so we've got a string of copper gold porphyries on the property. And so there's a lot of growth. And I think it's really all that prospectivity of the whole region that has compelled Hecla, Sprott. And I think this is an area that, there's going to be a lot to discover.
What would be sort of the main takeaway you'd want viewers to leave this interview with?
I think this is a takeover candidate. This is a company that's proven in the last 3 years that we've been really good with shareholder money. We have returned gains to our investors at a time where that hasn't been the case, that hasn't been the norm. We're working really hard. I'm motivated. I'm looking for, to sort of get the credibility from the industry that you can hand me a project and I will lead a team and we will finance it and we will develop it and move it forward. This is a special circumstance. We've got a really good project and it's coming into a time where I think precious metals are going to be really relevant. So I think this is a top 3 silver name. And, I hope that we follow up with the big year that we had in 2022.
Well, thanks very much for that. I appreciate it. And we've gotten some great insights into Dolly Varden.
Thank you.
Thanks
Peter.
very much.
Thanks for having me.
Cheers.